name's Kate and this is my first proper study vlog on my YouTube channel Muse Egyptology, where I teach people ancient Egypt. In this study vlog I just wanted to talk to you about what I'm currently studying and some of the struggles that I'm having, and also a little bit of other stuff I've been doing this week. It's finally turned beautifully sunny. We haven't had good weather so far this June, so basically official summer we have had like autumn weather, and it's really lovely since yesterday morning, and I've been out enjoying it today. I went to the gym for the second time this week, and that's a big deal because I haven't been for like 2 months, and I sat outside eating an ice cream with my mum and my dog. Okay. I've had a really nice day actually, but I haven't done any academic work, and maybe that's why I've had a nice day, because I have been really feeling quite stressed with it recently. So the topic I've been studying this week, which has been a long-term kind of 2-month project which I have been struggling with, is tomb robbery in ancient Egypt. The vast majority of tombs from ancient Egypt were actually robbed in ancient times. Architects and builders of tombs in ancient Egypt knew from almost the beginning of building those tombs that robbery was a problem, and they employed many architectural and even magical means of trying to protect those tombs. But unfortunately they didn't succeed, and in the New Kingdom the pharaohs decided that instead of trying to prevent their very visible, obviously located tombs such as pyramids from being robbed, they would build their new tombs in a secluded location that very few people knew where the location was, and with hidden entrances so they couldn't find the way into the tomb. And this was the Valley of the Kings. And I have done a video on the Valley of the Kings and the reasons why it was built where it was. Unfortunately, many of these tombs were robbed as soon as even a few years after the burials, or even very shortly after or during the burials in some cases. But the famous tomb robberies from the Great Robbery Papyri are from the late 20th dynasty, when gangs of robbers broke into tombs and looted them, and were able to go off with many valuable tomb goods from pharaohs' tombs, such as things made of gold and bronze and other valuable metals that they could melt down, or other objects that they were able to get rid of easily through either transforming them or them being materials that weren't easily able to be traced back to the pharaohs' tombs. So I'm sitting here in the park, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the bird song. And I wanted to talk to you about something I've been struggling with for the last couple of months in trying to do research, which is, I now realise, is lacking confidence. So I am going to make a whole video about this, and also tips to help you to improve your confidence if you feel like that is something that is causing you to struggle with your own work. And it's something that I have struggled with before. I can't remember whether I struggled with it at university because it was a long time ago, and also because I had undiagnosed ADHD. I don't know if what I was struggling with back then was caused by the ADHD or was caused by a lack of confidence, or a combination, or maybe something else as well. But I realised that because a few years ago I was trying to write an episode of what this channel used to be. It used to be a podcast. I was trying to write an episode on ancient Egyptian religion, and I was trying to research and write this episode on and off for nearly 3 years before I just had to give up. And that's ridiculous because the subject was just absolutely impossible to summarize in a 45-minute podcast episode, video, a 5,000 word essay, whatever format of a small piece of work, because ancient Egyptian religion is huge, absolutely a complicated, detailed, in-depth subject that Egyptologists still don't understand properly, that you could do a PhD on, you could research your whole career on, and you would really be able to understand everything about it and to be able to summarize it for people who haven't also studied it already. And I was trying to do that, and I struggled for 3 years and gave up. And I'm feeling those same feelings again now that I'm trying to research and write about the video that I've been trying to do for a couple of months, which is ancient Egyptian tomb robbery. So I've now realised that although I know I do experience imposter syndrome, and obviously the Dunning-Kruger effect is part of this conundrum, but the reason why I'm not able to get over the Dunning-Kruger effect, out of the valley of despair, as it's metaphorically called, that big dip, if you've seen the Dunning-Kruger effect graph, and I'll pop it on the screen, it's the big dip at the bottom of the sharp decrease in confidence when you realise how much information there is to learn that you don't know. I can't get out of the valley of despair because of my lack of confidence. Everyone experiences the Dunning-Kruger effect at some point in their lives, but most people are able to get out of it. And a lot of the time I can, but I think that there's either some times when I choose a subject unwisely, like trying to summarise ancient Egyptian religion into 45 minutes, or where I, like with the Dunning-Kruger effect, assume I have enough knowledge to be able to start doing the research I want to do, but that I don't realise that I actually don't have enough knowledge, and that sudden slope down into the valley of despair is shocking and almost unclimbable. Most of the time I don't actually experience it that bad a slope or that deep a valley, but this time I am, and I'm just struggling to pick up the books to actually learn the knowledge I need, because I just feel like I'm never going to get out of it. So that's what I'm struggling with. I'm just going to have to try to use some of the techniques that I'm putting in the how to get out of this mindset. I'm going to have to use them myself to try to get through this, because I'm undoubtedly going to experience this sort of feeling again. And part of it comes from low self-esteem or low confidence generally. And the trouble with this channel is I am constantly I'm constantly exposing myself to the Dunning-Kruger effect, because I'm constantly picking a new subject to write a video about. Because I was going to be doing this, trying to research a brand new subject every week. That was the plan. And that is just untenable. I just need to improve my confidence generally and continue to improve my knowledge about ancient Egypt by reading, learning. So this week I have made some good progress with it. I started reading this book, the relevant sections of this book, which is Village Life in Ancient Egypt, Laundry Lists and Love Songs by Andrea McDowell, which is actually my favourite Egyptology book. And the reason why it's such a great book is because it has translations of ancient texts from the village of Deir el-Medina. And I will talk about Deir el-Medina in another video, but it's a really important village, and it was the home village of the workmen and their families. The workmen who built, or rather dug out and decorated, the Valley of the King's tombs of the pharaohs and some family members and some very lucky chosen officials. And they left a lot of textual records about many aspects of their lives and work. And what McDowell has done in this is not just translate the text, but also give contextual information. So she'll have general contextual information about the larger topic, and then she'll have more specific textual information about the translated text. And it's a really important book, but because it's full of translated primary sources, you do have to do quite a lot of analysis to be able to interpret the sources. And so it just involved a bit more brain power than I guess I've been able to engage with this week. But I finally finished it, and it has been really interesting. And so that's one of the books that I've used. When I was doing my research on tomb robbery a while ago, as I said, I've been working on this for a couple of months. I was using my trusty Oxford History of Ancient Egypt, edited by Ian Shaw. This is basically the book that I pick up if I need to understand something historical that I might need a bit of basic information on. I've also got Maurice Beerbreyer's The Tomb Builders of the Pharaohs. That again is about the people who lived in Deir el-Medina and their work in building the pharaohs' tombs. And similarly, or basically the same, we've got John Romer's Ancient Lives, The Story of the Pharaoh's Tomb Makers. I haven't read that one yet, but I've started this one. And it's a really good book. It's just a bit old. It's 46 years old, so I'm hoping that the information that I've got is from it is still relevant. This is the book that I read first for this topic when I did my original video on the Valley of the Kings. This is the book I started with, The Complete Valley of the Kings by Nicholas Reeves and Richard H. Wilkinson, and there's a 4-page spread on tomb robbery. And then I also read Catherine Bard's Archaeology of Ancient Egypt book, but I haven't got it with me, it's upstairs. And then I've got this one, which hasn't actually got anything about tomb robbery in the index, which is unusual. It's The Tomb in Ancient Egypt by Aidan Dodson and Salima Ikram. And I'm actually just reading this one in the evening for my own personal curriculum research on non-royal tombs. I want to understand more about commoners' tombs, specifically the non-rich people tombs, so the non-elite and the non-upper classes, because I know enough about pharaohs' tombs and rich people's tombs, but I want to learn more about non-rich people's tombs. And the reason I say non-rich people is because we have the vast majority of information that we have from ancient Egypt is from tombs, because that's where the evidence has, the majority of the evidence has come from and survived. And the majority of the tombs that are extant, that have survived over the thousands of years, are the pharaohs, royals, or very rich non-royal tombs. And the people who weren't in those categories were buried somewhere, but they might not have survived. They might have, their tombs might, or burials might have been built over, might have been destroyed somehow over the thousands of years since. And I want to know more about them if possible, if we have the archaeological evidence. And one subset of those tombs are the tombs from the people at Deir al-Medina, because they were tomb builders, and then they had their own cemetery next to the village, and they were able to use their building skills and decorating skills to be able to build their own tombs, although they are not representative of every type of commoner out there, because they were a specialist group with the facilities and resources. But I want to learn more about non-rich people, non-royal tombs. So I've got a few more books to go through, and I've probably got some more upstairs in my collection that I should look at. So as I said in my clip from the park, I don't feel confident yet about presenting the lecture about tomb robbery, because I feel like there's loads more I need to read. I am a perfectionist, and I also have imposter syndrome. So I would rather not present anything than present something that I'm not happy with, because I don't want anybody watching this who is going to learn bad information, or only part of the information that they should learn. And I also, just on personal perspective, as with many people with ADHD, you acquire rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which basically means that the way that you are presented with feedback because of what's probably undiagnosed ADHD during childhood and maybe into your teenagers and maybe more stages of life after that, people see you not performing or not behaving to their standards because you're different than the typical child or teenager or whoever, because you process information differently, or you have to organise your work differently or prioritise things differently. And people, particularly when I was growing up, weren't so aware of ADHD and didn't really tailor their feedback or even criticism in a way that was very kind or very friendly towards people with ADHD. So you just develop rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is just this complete just wanting to avoid having any criticism or any feedback or anything that might turn into that. So for example, if your boss says, "Oh, can you come and see me tomorrow at 1?" and then your heart drops because you think, "Oh my God, what have I done? What is my boss going to say to me? Like, what is it?" And it's awful. So I don't want to present any information out there in YouTube land that somebody might comment on negatively, which is completely impossible because I'm going to get negative comments at some point, but I don't want to put that out there yet. I understand I will get comments. I want to know that when I'm presenting information, it's ready according to my standards, so that I don't invite negative comments myself, I hope. So I was going to publish this video at the end of next week, but it's not going to come out that quickly because I'm not ready. So I am going to present the video I'm really excited about, which is how lacking confidence in academia damages your potential in academia, but then my steps towards building confidence in academia. And one of those things, one of those steps is something that I have done yesterday. I decided this yesterday afternoon after I came back from the park talking to you about lacking confidence in this particular topic. I decided to narrow my focus. So one of my points, or one of the things about the Dunning-Kruger effect is that if you are confident about your knowledge before you realise how much information there is out there, and then you're presented with this huge amount of information that you did not know, and suddenly your confidence plummets. If you are able to tailor your essay question, research topic, whatever it is that you're doing, into a more narrow topic before you start looking at the information. So instead of having a very wide field of focus, instead of then having to read a great amount of information and work out what you're going to do with it all to turn into this 3,000 word essay or 15-minute YouTube video or presentation or whatever it might be, if you're able to narrow it down, you can reject sections of books or whole books, and you then are left with a short list of work to get through before you're able to actually have to write the essay or whatever it is. So it just means that hopefully your potential for going down that slope into the valley of despair of the Dunning-Kruger effect is less likely because you have already narrowed your field. So in this tomb robbery video, I was intending to cover two different aspects of tomb robbery. So the first was the Ramesside tomb robbery, Ramesside period. So that would be particularly the late 19th, it was the late 20th dynasty. So there was tomb robbery in the 18th, 19th and 20th dynasties, but the particular tomb robbery that people concentrate on when they're talking about tomb robbery is the Great Tomb Robberies, papyri, the trials of the robbers who had systematically robbed the pharaoh's tombs in the Valley of the Kings. And that was the late 20th dynasty, when there were a lot of economic problems and also Libyan raids and things in Thebes, and the government wasn't doing a lot to help the locals, and they also, because there were economic problems, the government weren't prioritising on actually paying the workmen at Deir al-Medina their wages, which was in the form of grain. So you've got hundreds of villagers, I think it would be hundreds, who just weren't getting regular food payments. So they were living in the low desert, didn't have gardens, probably didn't have small holdings or farms that would be in the cultivatable land that other people would work for them. They probably didn't have them. So they just didn't have any facilities to be able to get food from elsewhere if the government wasn't paying them as they should do. So they decided to just start robbing tombs. The other category of tomb robbery, as I perceive it, is when the state in the very late New Kingdom and into the Third Intermediate period were actually emptying pharaohs' tombs themselves. So the particularly the rulers in Thebes who were not part of the same, they were not associated with the pharaoh as you would think it during the kingdoms, during the United times. So they were systematically emptying pharaohs' tombs to steal, I think to steal, although the books sometimes don't say it's stealing, to loot these valuable jewelries and objects and things, and melt down some of that gold and silver to reuse in their tombs, or take sarcophagi to reuse, or just taking jewelry and relabeling it with the actually the third intermediate period kings' names. That's too much information for me to research. B, that's too much information for me to put into a video with another topic that is a whole video in itself. And C, I have too many questions that I don't understand the answers to, that I really need to read more about and learn more about. So I've decided, I've been proactive, and I've decided not to talk about the very late New Kingdom into the third intermediate period state robbery of tombs. I'm just going to talk about the commoners' robbery of tombs, i.e. the normal people robbing tombs in the Theban necropolis. The great tomb robberies, which are really fascinating in themselves, but it is going to take me a few more weeks to do the research on that. So come back and I will do a video on that, I promise. I just can't promise when it will be. So I'm going to take Daisy out for a walk in the beautiful sunshine, and then when I come back I am going to do some more research, and I'm reading the Bir Briar book at the moment, and it's really interesting. It's a very good book. I bought it in a bookshop, a Boody's bookshop in Luxor. I've only been to Egypt once, and it was in 2010. So it's 16 years ago, but it feels like yesterday. We went to a Boody's bookshop and it was amazing, and it's near Luxor Temple. And I want to go back to Egypt. But obviously, you know, we've all got our priorities, and spending thousands of pounds going to Egypt, which, you know, is like the only place. If you said you could only go to one place for the rest of your life, where would it be? And I would say Egypt. Is not my priority. So unfortunately, unless anybody wants to pay for me to go, invite me on a nice river cruise or something down the Nile. But yeah, I'm gonna go, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.